Welcome to the thisABILITY Adventures podcast. I'm Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Chip Dodd from Team thisABILITY.
We are here with Team thisABILITY with Chip Dodd, Nick Hurff, Brenda Carlson, and Mark Miller. They made up the team this time for the Sud Raid in France that was August 18th to the 22nd. So it was a 5-day race. And it was a race that wasn't necessarily on our radar. So, Chip, why don't you tell us how you got invited to do the race?
Yeah, so the C2C is part of course, Warrior Racing, and they are part of the A1 series, which is different than the ARWS series that we normally race. And then each year, the top co-ed team of the C2C gets a free entry to one of the A1 races. And this year, High Point turned it down, and so it rolled down to us. And so we were able to, in a very brief period of time, put together a team and get ready to head to France for this A1 race. Yeah.
So I think you found out about the free entry like maybe a month before the race.
Yeah, month and a half. It was quick, and we had, we just did Morocco in April.
How could you turn down a free entry?
Yeah, right.
Of course, it still requires pulling together 4 people that are available and able to do that. And I think it's really cool that all of the team had raced as thisABILITY before. So maybe not all together in this configuration, right? No, this is first time for this configuration, but all of you raced as thisABILITY. That's really cool that you were able to do that. And I said there was a free entry, which helps enormously, but there was like a lot of gear that needed to be purchased. We think we've done enough races that surely we've got everything you could possibly need.
No.
But there was extra gear, there was lots of logistics, and from what I've heard so far, it was really difficult to get to the start. So, Nick, why don't you tell us about some of the gear that you needed?
We needed rollerblades, which was wild. I didn't think I'd ever rollerblade again in my life. But yeah, it was neat. So what they had planned was a rollerblading section for 10K. It was going to be a mostly uphill rollerblade. So you weren't going to have to worry about going downhill and losing control like we, may have done practicing. And then there's a swim run section, which I think the distance, we weren't exactly sure what the distance of swimming was. We just knew total distance at first. And then they refined it. So they had recommended hand paddles and buoy floats and all these things, which we actually didn't need. We'll get into that later. And then we had to get special, double pulleys for zip lining, which is pretty neat. And via Ferrata kits. And in France, the regulatory authorities are very, very strict. So we actually had to have helmets for every modality that was registered for that modality. So we had to have 3 helmets: climbing, paddling, and mountain biking. And each one had to have an actual international certification sticker in the helmet to prove that it was for that. And if not, it didn't count.
Yeah, so, wow, that is just so much stuff. But I first have to ask about the rollerblading. Brenda, have you rollerbladed? Do you have any experience rollerblading?
Never. Nope.
None.
No.
0.
I roller skied, but never rollerbladed.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
When I was little, I used to do quad skates, which is not the same as the inline skates. But I've done a bunch of ice skating. A little, not a bunch. But actually, it's funny. My kids now have inline skates, so I just went skating a day or two the other day with them. So I'm now committed to to inline skating.
Were they inspired to get those because you had them, or is that a sport that's coming back? Is it becoming popular?
I ordered the wrong size the first time, and then they fit my daughter, and then my son, of course, younger son, has to do what the oldest does. So while I was gone, purchased a used pair of rollerblades. So now at least three of us in the family have rollerblades, and now
So now it's a family ordeal. And Chip, you
yep.
have experience.
Yeah, skateboarding was my big thing until college, and then it kind of in the 90s kind of went away a little bit, and rollerblading kind of picked up. And so yeah, I became a rollerblader, and we did a lot of stuff. But then out of college, it pretty much shut down. So I had about 2 to 3 years of rollerblading experience.
I just feel like close to when we met, you had some rollerblades and like you brought them out of the attic or something,
Yep.
and you brought them out and they kind of like disintegrated when you like opened them up to try to put them on and just
No, we went to the skating rink, and I was like, "Oh, I got rollerblades. I got the good ones. Like I can do handrails, all kinds of stuff." We go to the skating rink, and they just got obliterated. I just threw them in the trash. Like, okay, I'll take the rentals.
that's funny. That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
And the
anyway,
rollerblades were from 1993,
yeah.
So
So it cracks me up that you guys needed rollerblades. And I honestly thought if anyone's going to get hurt, that's when it's going to happen.
yeah.
And well, anyway, we'll get to the rest of it, but I want to hear more about leading up to the race and the helmets specifically. Most of the U.S. races and many of the international races let you use a bike helmet for all of the disciplines. So, you guys were aware that you were supposed to have each type of helmet, but we have also used a Kong Scarab helmet that used to be rated for all three disciplines. And so you guys thought you could get by with that. Anyway, tell me what happened. Well, yeah, tell me about your helmet fiasco before the race. Who wants to tell me about that? Did any of you have all three helmets?
No.
I did, just because I happen to have all three that were specific to each sport. I didn't have like a dual purpose helmet.
Yeah.
So
So you were
I
the
had
only
brought,
one not freaking out after, well,
well, yeah, I mean, I'll let someone else tell the story, but it's because we were a little bit overconfident in our checking in skills, I guess.
Yeah.
so
So
Brenda, or you want to tell us about that? What happened when you got to the helmet check-in?
Did you ask me, Andrea?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, of course, we thought that we could get there at the last minute. So we pull up and bring all our helmets, and we got dinged on most of our helmets. I brought I did not bring a bike helmet, but I brought my Petzl helmet that Jason Magnus usually lets us use for an all-around helmet. So I thought I could use that for my bike helmet, and it was lighter than my bike helmet at home. But no, they dinged me on that and said no. But I did have a whitewater helmet. I did have a climbing helmet. So yeah, that
So
was
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
find this out at check-in, which is 2 days before the race starts, but the next day was
prologue.
prologue. Yeah, tell me the time frame
Yeah.
that you had to solve this problem.
Like
Well,
hour and a half.
Okay.
yeah, because the
I
stores were
think
closing and they're not open Sunday.
yeah,
And then well,
I was
part of the
gonna-
reason for the problem was I was added to a Sud Raid like team captain's distro on WhatsApp when I was like race directing Cowboy Tough. And so I just assumed that like Chip or others were on this chat, which they were not. And so I ignored it because I wasn't going to like, and they did translate some of the stuff in English, but I just didn't have time to go over like 250 messages while I was race directing events. And that was a bad assumption because Chip had no idea about this. So then we kind of figured that out, that there's a lot of information that we should have paid attention to that we didn't because I didn't communicate.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it started off, we get to the check-in, and we have no gear. We're just there just to say, hi, here we are. Where's my t-shirt? Where's the barbecue? The bar's open. And they're like, oh, no, no, you're supposed to bring blah, 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 blah. And we're like, oh, shit. And then now we're driving back to the Airbnb, And then we get all of our gear and we drive back up to the thing. And then like, oh no, these helmets are not going to work. Because the Kong Scarab apparently like 100 years ago was certified for I think 3 of the sports. But there's a special tag on the inside of the really, really old Kong Scarabs that show that it has certification for all 3. Even though our Kong Scarab looks exactly like everybody else's Kong Scarab, it didn't have the right sticker inside. And then they were like, nope, that's your mountain climbing helmet. Other than that, you still need a bike helmet and a paddle helmet. So Nick and I were screwed because we both had the Kong Scarab. Brenda needed a bike helmet. Mark was lucky to have everything. So all of a sudden now we're like, okay, crap, where do we go? And they're like, try Decathlon, which is like REI of Europe. And so we rushed down there because they're closing in like 45 minutes. And then luckily, we picked up the last 2 helmets on the shelf for the whitewater, right? The whitewater helmet Nick and I needed. And it was actually a canyoneering helmet or something that was whitewater and canyon rated. And there was like, I think Nick got one that was the wrong size, and I actually got one that kind of fit, but man, it was a mess. I mean, we were like closing the store down with the last remaining gear to check in, and the prologue's the next day, and everything's closed. So it was basically, I mean, it may have cost us the race.
So, yeah, that's really, really stressful.
Yes.
And that's the same day that you needed to turn over all of your gear?
No,
that was the next day.
Yeah, that was just a check-in. So what was the stress was more that the next day, all the hours for stores are very odd in France and in the weekend. And I don't know, maybe it was a holiday we weren't aware of. Well, there was some kind of religious holiday on the Friday, or I don't know. So whether it was just that's normal that things aren't open as often as they are in the US, or it was, the religious holiday was, there. But either way, all of the sports equipment stores were shutting down, and it was like a Saturday afternoon, and they weren't opening till like Monday or Tuesday. And so we would not have been able to get any gear in time.
Wow.
We probably just would have been calling everybody trying to borrow stuff. But
so usually when we go to races, Chip and I usually get there before the rest of the team. We're usually there almost sometimes even as much as a week ahead of time, just to kind of acclimate to the time zone, make sure all of our stuff gets there, just to have a little bit of time to settle in. I know you didn't do that this time, Chip, partially because I was sad at home trying to recover with my broken leg, and so he didn't want me to feel but so bad. So you had less time than usual. You had all this stress getting all the gear together. How did any of that affect you mentally and physically, like before the race? How did you go into the race after going through all of this? And Mark, you seem really chill. Why don't you answer that first? Did it affect you?
Well, Brenda and Chip were flying out, I think, a day or two prior to Nick and I. And I was actually traveling for work at that time. And there was tons of cancellations and storms and stuff. So I know like Chip's flights got all messed up, and luckily he was able to get there somewhat on time. Brenda was almost like a day late.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I actually was in DC, and my flight got canceled that night, the Wednesday night before I had to fly out on Thursday. So I had to rent a car and drive from DC to Charlotte, get in at, I don't know, early in the morning, and then basically pack up and ship out the next day. So we were not well rested or fresh coming into this. We were well stressed, I guess.
Even you were well stressed.
Yeah, but luckily all of our gear made it. It didn't all make it intact, but it made it for the most part. So
yeah, we should the gear not being intact. Brenda, your bike, was there something missing?
Yes, they managed to lose all one of my steer or the handlebar head one of those screws. They lost one of those, and both of my brake shims, they pulled those out or they fell out. Thankfully, they didn't hit the brake levers at all. But I have a smaller um, tube, or what do you call it? The head, the stem. Yeah, the
The
Yes.
gooseneck or whatever, right?
yeah, whatever that is. I have a smaller bolt, and we went all over the place trying to find a bolt that would work. And finally, we found this odd bolt, and it worked. And so that was saving grace. But yeah, when I got home, those same two bike brakes shims were out, and they had squeezed my brake levers. So it's like, what the heck? It's almost like they are doing it on purpose just to mess us up.
Wow. I wonder if taping them in place would help.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something like that.
And how,
Mm.
I mean, it just makes you worried.
Yes.
What more can you do? Usually when we pack our stuff up, we just try to make it, you know, like foolproof, like
Yes. Yes.
so yeah, and it's something different every time. That's a new one, I think. I haven't heard of anyone missing a screw to their, you know,
Mm.
their handlebar mount.
Yeah, I had them in the Ziploc bag, and they opened that Ziploc bag, dumped everything was dumped out of it. And so I was like, what the heck?
They were in a Ziploc bag.
Yes, they were. Yep, Ziploc.
Ah, man,
In
that just makes me so
in the little cubby box that kind of holds the helmet and stuff.
so
So
frustrating.
yeah.
So missed flights, missing screws, not knowing what you needed to know when, not having the right
Oh,
helmet.
and then there's Nick's bike. Don't forget about Nick's bike.
Oh yeah, my dropper post it's fine at first, and then it stopped working. So then we got that swapped out as well at the bike shop, which was great. They were able to. We went to the second bike shop we went to was able to swap it out, which was good.
Wow, I've had that
but it-
problem before, right
Yeah, it's like
before a
the
race.
C post was just up, down, up, down,
Yeah.
up, down. It was just like
Yeah.
a spring, and so
Mhm.
like he had to get it fixed, and like we're running out of time, and everything's closing.
Yeah, and I think for us, like it was so the flights in, once we all got there, because we all landed around the same time. Well, the three of us did. Chip was there a day earlier than the rest of us, and then Mark and I arrived together on the same flights, and then Brenda arrived like 2 hours later. And what was neat was we were able to fit everything in the rental vehicle in the van, which is awesome. And then we got out to the Airbnb, and for the first like 2 days, we were pretty on it with the planning. So Mark had done the analysis on time estimates and which gear goes with which bins and that whole kind of thing where you have to dissect everything. And so then I kind of led us through the actual packing of all the bins and gear, which went pretty well. We hit this grocery store. We did 2 trips to the grocery store. We did an initial one, packed out, and then we went back and did a second one because we had some time. But it seemed like we had everything pretty dialed in. Like, I mean, once we started putting gear in, we just started with, hey, this bag, this goes in, everybody grab it, throw it in. We did the whole like everyone standing in the living room, hey, go down the mandatory gear list. That was one of the first things we did. We tested our bikes, found out they were broken, but we had time to do those. So everything was actually really well organized and planned once we were there on ground until we showed up at check-in and realized, oh, wait, we don't know half the info we're supposed to know because the messaging thing. So that's when I think like about 24 hours before the race or so or less, then that's when all the stress hit. But prior to then, I felt like we were ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And feeling really relaxed and good, which is why we went there a little later to the check-in because we were like, oh yeah, we got everything set, we're prepped, we're good to go, like we feel good. And then it was like
Surprise!
surprise, yeah.
Yeah, and so Chip, you are usually the designated driver
Yeah.
wherever we go in the world. You're really good at that. And you guys flew into Marseille, and then you had to drive to Gap?
Gap, 2 hours northeast-ish. Yeah, we had a big kind of SUV. We got really lucky that the third row folded forward and it fit perfectly our bike boxes. Like if there was an extra inch on the end of the bike box, I don't think the back door would have shut.
So you got 3 bike boxes in
Yeah.
there?
No, we got all
4
four
bike
bike boxes and all of our gear, including the rollerblades, the helmets, everything. Now they weren't
4
necessarily comfortable. Yeah, 4 people, but they got bags all piled on
Wow.
them and all of that. But they were all tired, so they snored.
It's like I feel like in Europe all of the cars are smaller.
It was
So that's
pretty small.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the driving
Stick
was
shift.
fun.
Yeah, it was,
Oh,
yeah.
stick shift. Of
Driving in
course.
France is pretty easy. Yeah, lots of roundabouts. But
All
yeah,
right.
everything was pretty
So you
straightforward.
get in Gap and it looked amazing. It looked really,
Fun
really
town.
beautiful. And you got all of your stuff checked, or no, you went through the check-in process. And different than a lot of races, you had a prologue the day before the race actually started. And the prologue looked pretty involved. And it looked
Well,
fun.
before we get to the prologue, we should talk about the race brief, which happened about 45 minutes ahead of time and in all French. And we were late because we were fishing helmets and da da da, and we come running in. They've already started. It's all in French. And so Brenda's over there with somebody that was trying to translate it, sentence by sentence. And I'm up there next to the speaker trying to use Google Translate to get something out of this. And they went on and on and on and on and on and on and laughed and carried on. And like everybody knows everybody and they've all done the race before. And we're just sitting there clueless.
Wow.
And so this is like literally the first time. I mean, I guess we take it for granted that almost every country speaks English. Not France.
Not France.
Not France. They did not care about English. And so I got to give it to all the international teams that travel to a country that does not speak your language. That's a very stressful way to race when we really had no idea what was said at the race brief. Little tidbits here and there. We just had to use our experience and read the race rules, which even the race rules, although they were translated in English, half the sentences made no sense. I mean, it was
Yeah, the
it was gibberish.
translation, I read a lot of it, and the translation was really odd.
Yeah. It
It was a
done
very
by
complex race.
and it was complex, yes.
Yeah, with like how many, there was supposed to be something like 16 legs or something, and all those different disciplines, and then not being able to understand what's being told to you. And sometimes there can be some really important information in that final pre-race meeting. Wow. All right. So the stress level is now at.
Oh yeah.
And the race directors, I thought there were three race directors really. They had different titles. All three spoke varying levels of English. Some broken, some decent. And all three of them did go out of their way to check with us through the race the entire time, which was neat. So like they understood that pretty quickly that like, oh man, we didn't catch up on everything. And I felt they were pretty good at checking in with us. But with that, there were times where even at one of the TAs, like they told us stuff verbally, and then we went back with a laminated sheet and I handed it to him, was like, hey, can you cross out what was canceled and different? And they added in extra things of different boxes we were going to get that we didn't get when we were verbally told. So they were trying, but yeah, it was difficult.
I think there was some changes though along the way of when they started cutting things and then added something back in. That wasn't all decided the same at the same time. So
yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that. All right. So yeah,
well, I'm wondering if, as far as stress level goes, I'm wondering if anybody was stressed out about the way my health was. I had just come in or off of COVID, and I felt pretty miserable. So I was always wondering what you guys thought, or was this going to be a horrible race for you? When we got to our Airbnb, I had to climb, 4 floors. I could barely breathe by the time I'd get to the top. I just sucked. I just sucked bad.
Wow. So how long before the race did you realize you had COVID?
I had COVID that week beforehand. I tested positive, and I finally tested negative the day I left.
Wow.
So I had it pretty hard all the way up until then. And I had real bad sinus infection to the point where my teeth hurt really bad when I was doing any kind of running or jogging.
Wow.
And totally out of breath. I was not recovered at all. Not even close.
Wow. And yet you were ready to go. How What about you? How worried were you about
I
that?
was stressed out about it. I was real stressed out, and I kind of asked for help. Carry some of my gear. As much as I could offload it. And they were really, really good about that, just carrying a lot of my gear and helping me out. But I still felt like a real stone. I just didn't have anything. I felt pretty horrible.
Yeah, and no matter how much help you're given, you still have to do it,
I
like
still have to do it. Yep.
it doesn't make it easy necessarily when other people take your load. I mean, it
Yeah.
helps for
It
sure,
does
but
help.
when
Yes,
you're
it does
not
help.
feeling good and you're not
Yep.
100%, gosh, that is so stressful.
I mean,
It
I
was.
hated that for you guys. All of these things. I was like, oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, and the opening trek, we were up around we were over 8,000 feet high at certain checkpoints. So, you factor that into the fact she's having, lung and cardiorespiratory illness that she's recovering from. And that's, just an extra added layer of difficulty on her.
Yeah. Well, on all of you guys, because you're all sea level, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
So that's that's just not easy. 8,000 feet you should be feeling if you're coming from sea level. That's let alone, having COVID on top of that.
No,
Oh,
luckily, I mean, Brenda had shared with us ahead of time going in. So, and luckily, the other three of us were feeling very strong going into the race. Nobody had any injuries or any illness or anything. So, one person's weight spread across three people. It was pretty much doable. That didn't stress me out too much. But I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, even if we carried all of Brenda's stuff, she's still got to walk down the big hill and back up the next big hill, and like you can't do piggyback rides in the Alps. It was just too steep for us, let alone us plus somebody.
yeah.
So we did the best we could. We moved slow and we got through it. And
Yeah. We talked about how you could chop me up into pieces and
yeah,
carry me to the finish line.
yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we did.
it definitely was serious talk there.
Like
enough
if we
packs
kill
to
her
carry
and
you.
she's missing a leg, does that count as a four-person team if we get to finish? Like how much
Body
of
crossed
Brenda,
the finish line.
yeah, how much of it counts as Brenda?
Yeah.
All right. So stress levels are high. You haven't turned things in yet, but you have to do the prologue, correct? So the day before the race starts is the prologue. Who wants to tell me about it?
Yeah.
Nick, you want to start?
Nick loved the prologue. Best prologue ever.
Was it?
Prologue was fun. So the prologue was I think it was a 6-hour adventure race that they were hosting. And so you had a lot of people that signed up just for the 6-hour. And then all of us, it served as the prologue for our race. And so how you placed, so the expedition racers, how you placed in the 6-hour was your starting order. And when you started the race the following day, you started in a ski line, waiting in line, and you got on a ski lift. And then at the top of the ski lift, they handed you the map and off you went. So a lot of the top teams, I mean, they were flying and racing and everything. What was also neat was they did the race start. They used e-punching to thumbstick, the thumbstick things. So your start time, they could stagger start the prologue to where, everybody's time would be equal regardless of when you started the prologue. So to start the prologue, you started with at a driving range. So all 4 team members lined up on 4 different pads, and you just started smacking golf balls, and you had to hit it past, however far. And
Each team
once you
member
got,
had to hit it a certain distance.
I think you
Two.
had to, I think 2 people had to hit it. 2 balls from 2 different people had to go far. I don't know, something like that.
100
You
meters.
just smacked the crap out of it. And I think we all did really well because we kept hitting it, and then they were yelling at us, "Stop! Go! Go! Go!" And then what was neat about the whole race, and we noticed in the prologue, was all the maps are like orienteering style maps, like OCAD maps that were very, very, very detailed, and detailed to the point that like we got a little confused at one part, which is fine. But then we ran through the course, and what was neat was the course. You essentially dropped your teammates and your bikes off, and then one teammate got shuttled from the finish line up. And you started at the top of a mountain. So you biked, and you generally biked all the way down this mountain, winding through all these roads and everything into the city. And then when you get into the city, you go through the city, and on the way down there, you did like a small foot-o that was timed, which is really neat. And then in the city, it was really neat having an urban thing. There were some parts that were timed and not timed. There was a curling thing where you got to actually do like curling on a ice rink with the big like rocks and stuff and brooms, and that wasn't timed, so you could actually like have fun and enjoy it. And then you ran around the city more. And at one point, we were in like these ancient monastery ruins underground, which is super awesome, and it was neat. And I raced nationals last year with two guys who one's French and the other spent a lot of time in France. They're in the US now. And both of them had said to me before that a lot of the shorter adventure races in France are a lot of games and a lot of fun and like fast. And that's exactly what it was. It was like a lot of fun, like just even if it wasn't a race going on, like tons of fun. Where in the US, it's a lot more of like a multi-sport orienteering, you're racing. There's just like all these different games that are going on through the course, and everything's just super unique and fun and just kind of like super fast paced. It was super neat.
That's interesting. I hadn't realized that it was also a 6-hour race. That's pretty interesting. I think here in the US, like our 6-hour races are like just mini adventure races in the hopes that we're like showing people what bigger adventure races are like. But maybe that's not as fun, and we should take some hints and do some more creative things.
Yeah.
But 6 hours is still 6 hours. So you're active for 6 hours and the race hasn't even started and you haven't turned over your stuff yet. So you
It
get
didn't feel like we did a 6-hour race. I think because it was so much downhill and then you're like flat in the city. It didn't feel like a 6 hour. And
we
then
were
also
running. Like a lot of teams were running when you could run, they were running, and we were taking it easy. Again, Brenda was still recovering from COVID. We're like, let's not kill Brenda in the prologue. Like let's at least get to the race. Or like, and the prologue was only a starting order. We know we're gonna be in the back. We're not trying to win this thing. So, but meanwhile, Brenda's like very competitive, and she's up there running, and we're trying to pull her back.
like holding her back.
Like, yeah, like we said we were gonna walk, Brenda.
That's hard to do.
I know. It was so funny. She's so competitive, wanted to run, chase people.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that about you, Brenda.
Thanks,
So,
Andrea.
yeah. So, Mark, tell me about after the prologue and turning all of your stuff over. How'd that go?
Yeah, so we finished the prologue, maybe 2, 3 in the afternoon, something like that. And then we that day had to turn in the rest of our gear, I think by like 8 p.m. or something that evening. And then of course we had a pretty early race start as well, because we had to be we had to basically park the vehicle in a parking deck in town, and then walk to where the buses would pick us up, and they would bus us to the start line. So I think we had to be there at like 5:30 in the morning. So we had the very early morning, and so then then we actually got into the very detailed packing of everything, and it wasn't like a typical adventure race. Like everybody gets their bin, or everybody has a bin that we share that you see at every TA. So we essentially had our mountain bike box, and then a food bag, and then 4 bags for the race. And you saw those bags at different periods in the race, and those bags were like, you had a pack raft bag, you had a swim run bag, you had a climbing gear bag, you had a change of clothes, and then you had like the skates. So like they weren't bags that you would see all the time, and so you really didn't have a bag or a box that you could be like, well, this is my foot care, this is my all the extra clothes that I would need throughout the race. And then they had very strict weight limits on all of it. And so it became very complicated, because, like, for example, the bike box is the one thing that we would see kind of more frequently than anything else. but it had a 23 kilo limit, which is, a little bit more than 55 pounds, something like that. Which, I mean, it's hard enough for us to get under 50 pounds to get it on the plane to get there, let alone pack anything in it.
Yeah.
And so we spent the last couple hours, like, again, Nick kind of led, let's go through mandatory gear. Let's pack each bag. Let's try to weigh them at the Airbnb. And then when you get there, you had a unofficial weigh-in to check your bags, because when you went to the official weigh-in, if you were overweight, it was a 30-minute time penalty.
Wow.
They were very serious. They weren't joking around. They wanted your bags to be right, and you do one official weigh-in and you're done. And so again, in our style, we were not late to the bag check-in, but we were towards the back end, a very back end, and then struggling to figure out, I mean, it was literally, you would put your bike box on the scale, and people were putting you 1 bar, 2 bar. Can I get 1 more bar of food?
Yeah.
In it, because you were pushing up in terms of grams. I mean, we weren't even talking about like a pound or two. It was like, can I get 300 grams into this bike box? And so, I mean, it was a little bit of a mayhem trying to get all the bags sorted, because even like our pack raft bag, for example, it was overweight with just the mandatory gear in it.
Wow.
And so we had a couple bags like that. And of course they were like, well, let's inspect your bag. Let's make sure there's nothing but mandatory gear in here, and then we'll accept it and we'll be okay with it. But so we were shuffling around gear and food, and that first opening trek, we ended up having to carry a lot of extra weight because we couldn't fit it into our bike box, which was be the first thing that we'd see. So
I just
that
really
was
hate
pretty
because
stressful.
you spend a lot of time getting all the gear you think you're going to need, buying all the food you think you're going to need, and to find out that you're not going to be able to use all of that stuff. So I mean, doesn't it have to be that way?
No.
Yeah, I think what was one thing that was frustrating, I think, was we had bought, because we didn't know anything about swim run. We've never done it. So they had listed mandatory gear and recommended gear. So we bought the mandatory and recommended. The recommended, we only did mandatory and the recommended gear. That's it in the thing. And it was overweight. So we had to remove the recommended gear that they recommended because it didn't make weight for the bag. And it's like, well, why would you recommend it? And why do we even bother buying recommended and flying it out?
Yeah.
And it turns out the swim run was just like, it was nothing. It was like, swim 100 meters across the lake twice. But
of course, you
still,
don't know that. They didn't give
no,
you
we
those
didn't really realize
distances
it. Yeah.
ahead of time. And then for them to recommend the extra stuff that you can't even fit if you tried, I would find that really frustrating. And I think it's really stressful.
The
And
rollerblade was like that too. I think they had recommended knee pads, and elbow pads, and wrist guards, and all this stuff. There ain't no way it would have made weight. You could barely fit your rollerblades and socks in the thing.
wow.
So yeah, anything we took over there, like that was extra, the peanut that you put between your thighs when you're
Yeah.
swim running, and the inflatable bag that's like a high vis bag, like that didn't make it. Like it's so.
That was required.
No, it was just recommended, and none of us used it because it didn't make any sense. Yeah,
It didn't make weight. Yeah, and so it's like, all right.
Well, anyway, so a lot of stuff got put in your backpacks as your solution of feeling like you absolutely needed some things, but you didn't have the space to put it anywhere. So you put it in your backpack.
Well, because the minute you get to TA1, you take your bike out of your bike box, you dump your crap in your bike box, and
because they don't weigh it ever again.
They don't weigh it again.
Right? Yeah, but
and some of that was food. Like it was like stuff you couldn't go without. Like,
or you assume you couldn't. You wouldn't know if you were going to go to towns or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it's almost like if the race director doesn't give you enough weight to put enough food in there, they should at least tell you when and where to expect food. Not where, but when and which TAs or whatever that you could expect to purchase food.
Right. And we ate a
Anyway,
lot of purchased food.
I'm sure
I
you
think I
did.
would have run out of food because I had to pull a lot of food for the race, like to make weight. And so even though we took food in our leg one for the rest of the race, leg two, what was it, 2 through 7 or something? We had a big food bag that we
Yeah.
had that should have been in the bike box, but it couldn't make weight. So we had basically the first 7 legs of food. But then, we go to restaurants and we go to little convenience stores and we're eating all this food. And I'm like, I got to the end of the race. I was like, I don't have a lot of food left. Like I ate all my food and I ate at multiple restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I will say that your pack looked enormous.
It
When
was
I
huge.
saw it on the first day, there was some footage of you guys.
We did overpack, I think, a bit.
Well, not
Yeah.
if not if Chip pretty much ran out of
I mean,
food.
And that's the hard part that we talk about too is when we don't know the race course, right? Like in New Zealand, for example, we went up into the Alpine and it was like legit Alpine, very wilderness, hard to get out of there. And there was a winter storm and like it got wild. Um, Here, and we wouldn't know because we weren't local, but we're heading up into similar sized mountains. But pretty much at any point, there's like very easy hiking trails that you just drop down like 2,000 feet and you're on the main road out. And so we wouldn't know that, right? But I think a lot of the
Just
locals,
2,000 feet.
yeah, well, a lot of the locals I think are used to. Well, that's like like a 40-minute hike downhill. Or
I
whatever,
know.
right?
I'm teasing.
So I think that's something where like because we were talking before, like, oh, if we go in the Alpine, we're going to want X, Y, and Z because if we get stuck in a winter storm like that again, like it can get really bad. But then doing it in this race, looking back, is like, oh man, we didn't need half of that stuff. We could have just went super light for the first leg or so if we could fit it. And
Well,
that's what a
is
lot
that
of teams did.
also maybe because you had good weather? Like
Yeah.
you might have needed it, just you didn't happen to need it that time.
Mm-hmm. Good
Uh,
weather, yeah.
So we have taken a lot of time talking about just the lead up to the race, and I still have one more question about the lead up. You're at the start line with all of these teams. I think what 99% of them were French. There was one team from Japan,
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, okay, and
Belgium.
Belgium.
in Belgium, okay.
That may have been it.
What was it like? What?
Even though it's the world championships or whatever of A1, I was like, no, there's 3 other international teams.
So what was the vibe? What did you
Um,
feel like?
I mean, well, one is we basically didn't know anybody and nobody speaks English. So I think we were kind of on our own, which was fine.
There's Jeremy's team we met halfway through.
Yeah, Jeremy's team halfway through at the restaurant. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, they were super nice.
Well,
Good English.
what you might mention is how beastly the French are.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
feel
gosh.
like the caliber of teams there looked impressive. Of course, I didn't recognize really any of the team names besides Exponnature.
Yeah.
And they had a different name at the beginning of Exponnature. They must have been like a combination of teams. But yeah, they looked really
Yeah. If
ready
anybody's
to
been
go.
to like the world championships and the national championships, like think top 10. That's what it looked like
Yeah.
on average. Like it was like, wait,
Mhm.
where's the backpack teams? Where's the mid pack teams?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we are the backpack team. Like they seem to be all like tall and lanky thin and super fast. You could just tell they were
Okay.
gazelles.
So we usually kind of think of ourselves as mid-pack. Like sometimes we shoot for a little higher and sometimes we realize we might be a little lower. But what were your goals going into the race? How about you, Brenda? What were the team goals?
Well, I know the team goals were to obviously clear the course and get as many pro points as we could on the way. But I knew how I felt, and I'm like, let's not try for the pro points just because I knew I felt like crap. But I think we felt like we could be mid-pack, mid to a little bit further back. But that's what the team goal. And secretly, I know how I felt, and I'm secretly thinking, oh my gosh, I just hope we're not last. But
yeah. Well, this race was scored very different than what we're used to. We're getting more used to it because we've done, Morocco was scored in the same way. But so there were mandatory points and there were optional points. And so, when you use the word pro point, I think you're referring to the optional points.
Yes.
And most all of the points were mandatory. There was a leg where they were all optional. And then you had to get the CPs in consecutive order. And then once you skipped a CP, that's where your ranking stopped. So that's a lot different strategy going into it, like how to weigh, do you want to see the course or do you want to do, have a higher ranking and all that. It gives a different, just a different spin to your strategy. And so starting the race, let's just get into it. You get in line at the chairlift, you go to the top. That must have been amazing. And that's, when we saw the first video of you guys was right after the chairlift, and it just looked incredible. So, yeah, tell me about that first leg, Chip.
The chairlift was pretty amazing. Here we are, we're relaxed, we're sitting there with our packs, we're going up to the top. The weather was perfect, the views were amazing. I think we had a lot of fun going up there, and then they basically hand you your map when you get to the top. There's a whole cheerleading squad egging us on, and then you find out you have to run all the way back down the hill. And Nick and Mark did all the nav on this, and they did an excellent job because some of the checkpoints on the way down were pretty tricky. And we had to kind of traverse the topography a little bit and go down some pretty sketchy re-entrants. And, this is like the type of alpine where it's basically scree sheer drop. So it was, as we're trying to kind of move fast downhill, like we were tripping and falling and all of that. But I thought it was really good. We get to the bottom and we're basically back in the ski resort, but we didn't take any time to stop at restaurants because we were still trying to get all the mandatory points. So we start back up the next side of the hill, which this side of the hill doesn't have any water. And we passed a couple little streams. But I think we were all just like, we were excited and we weren't checking the water so much. And we thought for sure the map shows that there's plenty of water up here on the mountain. And even one checkpoint was supposed to be on a lake. So we thought we were going to be fine. And we get up, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 feet up on the side of the hill above the tree line. And we're starting to get low. And we recognized it really early and was like, we need water. So navigators, figure out a way to get us to water. And every time we went by a blue stream on the map, it was completely dry.
Wow.
So, I don't know were we out for like, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's super hot.
Wow.
We're super hot, sweating our butts off, carrying this extra weight because we wanted to get it to our bike box for the rest of the race. And we're cramping, can't really eat because you have no water. We did start rationing and kind of taking whatever water we had left and kind of spreading it around just so that you can basically wet your mouth. But yeah, it got to the point. I remember I was talking to Mark and it was like, we might have to go down. We could see a river, like visually look down. It's going to take us an hour to get down there, but it's going to cost us the race. But I can see water. We could get to water if we really, really need it. But we wanted to get as many points as we could, and we didn't want to give up. But
So I guess it was also hot.
Yeah.
And you're exerting yourselves. You haven't had great sleep. You're stressed out going into the race. That's stressful. I mean, that could become very serious.
Yeah, I mean, it was becoming serious. We're all cramping.
What were the signs? Like, what would you have done? Like, how much worse would it have needed to get for you to go down to get water?
Well, if you cramp so much you can't really move forward, that's a sign that maybe you need to go down. It was we slowed way down because the idea is that if you're moving fast, you're sweating. So we had to just slow down, but also we kept climbing. So climbing up with the extra weight, yeah, it was just super rough. So, but we knew we were going slow, and then Nick, I guess it was at that climb where the race director had called one of the staff and was like, your guys' pace is so slow. Like you need to cut this short and go back to TA because you're not going to make it.
So someone on the course told you that at a specific place?
Yeah, they had a rock scramble that was maybe 50 feet. And they actually had two mountain guides there, one at the bottom, one at the top. And so I was scrambling up. I think I had Brenda's pack as well. But we scrambled up, and then the mountain guide up top, her and I were chatting, and the race director called her, and she was speaking French, but they're talking about us, I could tell. And they said that we can go to do the Via Ferrata, but it'll be in the middle of the night, and if we do that, we're going to miss the pack raft the next day, and we'll be short coursed. Or we could skip the Via Ferrata and then take a certain trail down, and then get back to the TA and continue all the legs. So we opted for that one.
Yeah. So you did eventually find water, but so after you found water was when you got
to talk about when we find the water.
Okay.
Well, no, it was we met with them. We cross-loaded water because I think I had some extra. We cross-loaded water and then continued, and then we're running low. But we did the scramble. They short-coursed us, or told us to strongly advised us to take the short route. And then as we were pushing to the next CP, we found like a little tiny trickle of a thing.
Trickle.
And we literally drank from it. And then we pushed to CP7. There was supposed to be a lake there, but there wasn't. It's like an intermittent lake, so from snow melt, and there wasn't any snow melt left in it. And then we pushed another 300 meters, and we actually hit a stream, and took like 15 minutes to actually down a ton of water and get food, because you're not eating when you're not drinking, and rehydrate. And then we decided to push, instead of descending from there, we pushed for another 25 minutes or so up to another CP, ping that one, and then we took the trail they recommended down, so we'd get one more checkpoint.
Okay. So Mark, was it difficult to decide not to go on, or did you trust their advice? Like, I feel like maybe you guys knew, oh, we're just in a slow spot because we didn't have water. And then once you find water, you might think, oh, we can move faster now. I don't know. Was there any feelings of pushback, or were you all just unanimous, realizing this is our situation? There's no sense in risking further missing other cutoffs.
Yeah, it was pretty unanimous. I mean, so we when they told us that was at CP6, and then we had this little lake was at CP7, and CP7 was actually very close to the TA, and the TA was down on the river, so we could literally see the TA from where we were. And I mean, just looking at the amount of course that we would have to cover, we had only done half of that first leg by that time. So it was going to take us another 6-8 hours to even finish the rest of the course. And they had already told us, like, the top teams were already getting to the TA by then.
Wow. So
we had realized, okay, these guys are super fast. We are not moving very fast. And the amount of terrain that we need to cover, and the fact that there was a Via Ferrata that was part of that we knew was going to take a lot of time. I mean, and part of the decision was, well, we have another Via Ferrata later in the race. We'll hit that one, and that way we'll do the pack rafting. We know the pack rafting is going to be a lot of fun. We'll have another Via Ferrata, so we won't miss out on too much, and we'll stay in the race as much as we can, and kind of keep moving along, of course. So it was pretty unanimous from that point of view. I mean, we were suffering pretty good. Definitely Brenda and myself. I mean, my legs, from the amount of descending that we were doing, actually not the climbing was okay, but the descending, my legs were just, I mean, they were locking up, painful going down because of the dehydration. So it was unfortunate. I mean, it was that early in the race to kind of give it up, but it really, there was, it was mandatory points, that whole portion. So I mean, it is what it is.
That's a little surprising to me that all of those points were mandatory, because they were probably some pretty challenging points. I mean, a Via Ferrata, you'd imagine, is more challenging. It would have been nice if the design were such that those were optional points. and that there would be kind of a shorter route without actually stopping your score. That would have been really cool. But I mean,
Yeah.
I agree. You don't want to do a Via Ferrata in the middle of the night, because usually you're
Yeah.
enjoying the views all around in a Via Ferrata. So
Yeah.
Like
And
we were told, our quads were destroyed from coming down the hill. And so anytime you descend, I mean, all of us were going, ouch, 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 ouch. And then you, on top of that, the dehydration and the cramping and all of that. I mean,
yeah,
we even if we got water, you don't recover quick from that, and then all of a sudden double your speed. So
yeah.
we knew it was like we just need to do what the race director saying and just pull, pull the plug.
And they short coursed a bunch of teams, a couple teams that are like 4 teams or so, 5 teams.
Yeah, there were 2 teams that didn't get CP 7. I think you guys stopped at CP 7, right? Or was it CP 8? Okay. So there were 2 other teams that did not get that. So I thought that was pretty cool that you guys did that. And I also wondered if you did get one additional point from the teams behind you, or if you even knew that there were other teams that would have not chosen to get the CP that you got.
And that's why we did 8, right? We were like, let's just get one more,
Okay.
and then we'll head down.
Yeah.
And it was still daylight by the time we got to TA, so I thought that was a good decision. And that the little bit of rankings, like Brenda said, we just don't want to be last. So
That was a good strategy for us in Morocco too.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh, we knew a lot of people were turning around at this one point, so we got one more. I think that's a great strategy. And you guys got to CP1, but Brenda, were there any highlights to that leg one?
Well, I thought the view was gorgeous. I loved going up the chairlift, and the navigation was spot on. That's definitely a highlight always in a race. And water.
Was it mostly on trails?
No, there weren't any trails. Well, there were a few trails here and there, especially at the bottom, but then we ran out of trails.
Oh.
But yeah, just scree, a lot of scree. I was sliding down the scree, and I don't know what Nick's made out of, but he's just running across the scree, and I'm going across the same scree, and I'm sliding down. I'm like, what the heck? But finding the water was definitely a highlight. I mean, I just laid on the ground and just drank it like a horse.
Wow.
And the puddle, it was like a natural spring, and there's this tiny little puddle, like maybe 8 inches diameter, and it was so low that you can't get your water bottle into it over. So we had to pull our water hoses off of our camelbacks and then use it like a straw. But if you put it like sideways, it would suck in too much air. You had to like actually put it down where it's sucking up rocks. And then we would like suck it dry, and you have to wait for the little pool to fill back up, and then you suck it dry again. So we all just sat there with our little straws like for half an hour, just
Did
sucking
you
every little bit
GoPro
of water.
some of that?
Yeah, we got
Okay,
on GoPro.
so you'll have to
Yeah,
check out the YouTube videos when they come out of
we
that.
were desperate. We were not leaving that little thing until we got at least like a pint or 2 of water in our bodies.
So you made it back to TA1. Nick, how did that change your strategy? Like you'd probably come to some amount of peace with your decisions and moving ahead. How did that go?
I think it went well. I think, like Mark said, it was pretty unanimous. I mean, we were moving really, really slow, and so it was a pretty simple. When the race director said it, and then we looked at the maps and we're like, man, there's like a lot of mountains left, and once you're in some of those areas, you're pretty committed once you're there. And so it was pretty easy. And then once we were
forward, how did it affect your all's decisions moving forward and your
it made it easy
attitude?
actually. So that's kind of the piece of that style of scoring is once you're kind of set with your score, you can race against the others that also skip that one and try to nudge and stuff. But, I think for a lot of us, we're like, well, what's the difference between us being like 33rd and 35th or whatever, right? That doesn't matter. So it made it to where we were able to like have fun. Oh man, sorry.
Bless you.
We were able to have fun. So it just turned into the experience. So it's like, okay, we even talked to the RD, Eric, one of the RDs, Eric, and we're like, hey, what are the things we don't want to miss? And he's like, you don't want to miss the cave, and you do not want to miss, the pack raft or something else, and the swim run, I think. And so it was like, okay, cool. So we literally just made sure that all our decisions were on making time and staying with the pack to make sure that we were going to hit those spots. And then it also gave us time to like, yeah, let's go hit a restaurant. Let's go grab a slice of pizza, whatever. So it changed it into, I think Chip calls it party pace. And it was fun because one, we're out there. The other thing was a lot of the CPs, it appeared that, there's beautiful CPs all over. However, it didn't seem like there were any CPs. Like, it didn't feel like we missed out on really much by doing what we did. So we kind of got to see the whole course, hit all the legs, did all the things. The race director let us know all the really cool ones we didn't want to miss, and it made it fun. But then there's, we didn't spend a lot of time. There were teams that were talking about one of the CPs where it was just a rat's nest of trails. A lot weren't on the map, and it took some teams like 4 hours or something crazy, to 4 or 5 hours to find a point. We just took a road around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
So it kind of
was fun.
lifts the stress, and then
Oh
it
yeah, no
helps
stress.
you to focus in on what you really want to see and do.
Mhm.
So you head out on the next few legs. What was the order of those? Mark, what'd you do after leg one? What were the next couple of legs like?
So leg two was a mountain bike, and that was a fairly long one. And we cut some of the Mando points from there. And of course, at this time, we're like all optionals or all pro points. We're like, yeah, we're not even bothering for those.
Yeah.
But now we're even like, well, there's no reason for us to even try to clear the course because we're our ranking stopped. So, and our legs were done from that amount of ascending and descending. So we went from there. We did a bike leg, which, and I'll say for this race, like we say a bike leg, everything is technical in this race. I mean, they're mountain biking. You could use a downhill bike on some of these sections. Like you're coming down mountain, you're coming down scree. You're like, uh, I contemplated, whether it was better to bike in the day or night, because at the night you couldn't see that there was a cliff next to you and that if you fall off your bike, you're down the cliff.
Yeah.
So so yeah, but it was really fun. Like a lot of it was downhill for the most part because we started at fairly high altitude and basically we were working our way back down the gap. And they selected some of their best mountain bike trails, but they're certainly not East Coast trails of the United States. I mean, there were some, we could at some point, I remember smelling the brakes of another French team that passed us.
Wow. Did you guys have
So
any falls?
Nothing crazy.
no,
No. And it was
yeah,
like,
no,
there were spots where like, Chip and I like technical stuff, so we had a blast on part of it flying around. But even then, like there were spots where we were just like stopping and like, we're gonna walk this right
We're gonna
now.
walk
'Cause, like,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
yeah,
either there were some big rocks where it's like, okay, you can break a hub if it gets wedged or the frame, because some of them are up high, and then there were a few spots where we're going and we're like, it's like scree-ish into a huge consequential drop, and we're just like, and Chip's usually full send, so when Chip is like,
When Chip
yeah,
walks it,
when Chip
everyone
walks
walks
it, it's
it.
like, this is
yeah,
legit, yeah. So it
Yeah,
was,
I don't think we've ever had a teammate that rides it if Chip
Yeah.
can't ride it.
yeah,
yeah. And there were
I'll
hairpins
walk by
that if
fair.
you did,
Yeah. All
say
right.
there were hairpins if you didn't know how to like endo, like you weren't turning your bike around those things, like, and I mean, it was full downhill going into a hairpin. It was some pretty
I'm
sketch
not
stuff.
great at those.
And you
That's
definitely
tricky.
needed a dropper and get way behind your seat, and you want traction on your tires because like your back tire is probably locked up. You're
Yeah,
sliding on the back, and your front you can't really turn. And yeah, it was
Well, you can always walk, right?
you could always
I
walk.
mean,
Yeah.
some places
always
though,
walk.
it's even dangerous to walk your bike. Anyway, yeah, so after the bike leg, was it a paddle section, Brenda? Was pack rafting next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
And that's your sport. Tell us about that.
phenomenal. It was whitewater, and we were all getting our wetsuits on, and we spent a
Well,
little extra time before we got into the water because somebody couldn't find their bib. And we had to go back to figure out where the bib was, and still no bib. And then I realized I had two bibs on.
yeah.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, that was
It
fun.
was not good.
We need to back up though real quick. Sorry, because we missed the caving section.
Yeah, the caving.
Oh,
So leg 2 was the mountain bike. We skipped leg 3 was an orienteering section that we just rolled right through.
That's right.
And then we went to the cave right before the pack raft.
Oh, caving is fun. What was it?
Was unique
Was it
caving.
for all of
Awesome.
you? Do you all like caving?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So it was like a mine. It was a mine, an old mine, but there was like it was neat. There were some spots that are open to the public for tours, and there's a lot of stuff that are these like, you're crawling into tiny spaces that you're wondering if Chip's even going to fit through, and going through these spots that are just closed to the public that you almost never get permission to do. And so,
did you ever have to put your pack through before your body? Like you have to take it off to fit through
We
the
didn't have
space?
packs.
we
didn't
dropped
have
the
packs.
packs on the outside. Yeah, we didn't have to bring them in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We had to wear
Would not have fit if we had backpacks.
Yeah.
Like
No.
many of these holes were like your helmet. I all of us have these new helmets. They're banged all up because we were hitting our heads on stuff and scraping. And
Is
Yeah.
that area a touristy area or like place a lot of people go or not? Pretty-
Not in the spots of the cave that we went to, but I think the public will get there and pay and go in on little walking tours and stuff. But we got to hit all these cool areas, and the maps were super detailed, orienteering style maps of the underground, which is pretty
Wow,
neat.
that'd be fun.
Super cool.
How
Yeah,
long did that take you?
hour. I don't know,
Yeah, it's pretty short. Yeah.
but it's fun. A lot
Yeah.
of fun.
it was also multi-level. Like you go upstairs and now you're above. So the cave was 3-dimensional. Yeah.
And the map
And the
around
maps,
that too?
well, the map's 2-dimensional, and the
Ah.
contours aren't big contours. So like there's spots where you're like, oh, we'll cut through here, and then you're like, no, like we're not. Let's go. We got to go around.
Wow, that's cool. I always love caving. That's unique. All right, so then we're up to the whitewater?
Yeah.
That was next? All right. Now, Brenda, tell us more about the whitewater. What class was it?
Oh, I would say it was class 2 and 3, definitely. And right off the get-go, you look down the river and you see a slalom course.
Oh,
Yeah, like a kayak slalom
Neat.
course that you would see in the Olympics. And our first checkpoint was in the midst of that slalom course.
wow.
So you're trying not to hit the bars that are hanging, and you're trying to watch for the checkpoint. And then, of course, thankfully, we had the spray cover and stuff. Mark and I did. And so we stayed pretty dry inside our pack raft. But water was coming in, even coming in, like through the whatever it is that you're wearing. It's still coming in a bit, but it was intense and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So that reminds me that we haven't mentioned yet that all four of you had to have finger sticks. So that
Yep.
all four of you had to
Yeah.
visit every checkpoint.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
those were on your wrists and they put them on with like those paper party bands.
Yep.
And didn't you have to sleep with those like the night before the race?
Yeah, the night before. It made no sense.
Yeah.
Like how
Wash
Nobody else did that.
dishes,
We
go
were
to the
just so
bathroom
late
with
going
them.
through. They're like, "Oh, we'll get you your stuff now."
I can't really imagine how irritating that would be to have something affixed to your wrist while you're trying to put on wetsuits or you're
Uh-huh.
taking on and off your rain jackets. But I think it's pretty cool that you guys all had to go to every CP.
That is.
I think it would be really irritating to have that. So you all four had to punch the CP in the middle of the river.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able, I
Mhm.
guess you're able to pause there long enough to
Yeah,
not
we
fly
eddied out.
by?
Yeah, we were eddied out, and then we were able to go and grab our checkpoint and then get back in and cruise on down. But it was a blast, Andrea. Just a lot of fun. There was no moments where you could just kind of float. I mean, it was constant moving water, and
Yeah, as long as you're not flipping out every few seconds, then that can be a
right.
lot
Yeah.
of fun. Keeps you awake and
Yep. Yeah. Chip
excitement
did not
high.
fall asleep.
Yeah,
No.
imagine that. Chip
Yeah.
not falling asleep
No.
in a boat.
And I was like, we're not going swimming. Like, we need to. This was a legit rapid, and there was a lot of strainers.
A lot of
The
strainers.
rapids themselves were not that bad, but the strainers were on the side, so you kind of needed to know what you were doing, or you could get yourself in trouble.
And you had two different setups then. Brenda, you said you guys had a spray skirt, and I know you didn't.
We had the bathtub, and
And
Nick's
you were in
job
the
was bailing.
so
And
you're in the boat with Nick and Mark and Brenda were together.
Yeah.
And so, Chip, you think the
I
spray
wish I
skirt was
had
better?
a self bailer. No, I don't like spray skirts because I can't get in and out of it, and there's no room for the gear and all that stuff.
The
But I
self bailers are
self
nice. Yeah,
bailer.
that's what I have. Yeah.
Yeah. But Brenda and Mark, you were happy with your choice.
I was. Yep. Very much so.
Were you happy
Were
with
you,
that,
Mark?
Mark?
It was really, so we had, we wore wetsuits, and before getting in the boat, like I was just dripping in sweat.
Yeah.
Because you had we had I had long johns on, the long john wetsuit, plus the long sleeve shirt, plus the splash jacket, plus your PFD, then the bib over it. And so it was hot out, but the water was chilly, but it wasn't like glacier cold. So it took a while to get comfortable in it. It was difficult to get in and out of the boat, but luckily we only needed to do that once or twice for the paddle. So it did keep a lot of water. Like we didn't have to bail, but I think once, we took on quite a bit of water. So I think if the water was a lot colder, I would have appreciated the skirts more, but I could see the benefit of a self bailer. But it's my boat, so I purchased it for the reason of paddling in colder water to try to keep you drier. So I think overall it worked out.
What if you kept your long sleeve off? Because I went with just short sleeve, and it was perfect. And just did your farmer?
Well, I did. I don't remember. I probably didn't have the weight limit. I think I had the shirt for to keep chafing from the long john.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but again, yeah.
Just for listeners at home too, just so they can learn what some teams do. Did you guys have your packs inside your boat in the T-zip, or did you have them in between your legs, underneath the spray skirt? And if you did, like, how did you access your stuff? Do you guys have pockets in your life jackets? I know Chip, I mean, we usually have our packs like basically in between our legs. We have access to what's in our packs, and we don't usually put them into the T-zip. But there's probably an argument to do that. What did you guys do? Did you use your T-zips, or did you have access to stuff while you had the skirt on?
So Brenda and I used the T-zip mainly because we had the skirts and deck, so it's really hard to fit stuff underneath that. And we knew we were going to be in class 2-3, so we wanted the weight to be in the boat. And it worked out really well. We just didn't have access to a lot of stuff. And this is also part of the gear requirement. Like I was in a different PFD than I usually race with because my PFD didn't meet they had a certain requirement for flotation.
Oh.
And so I didn't have pockets and everything on mine and my bladder and everything. So that was kind of an issue. But we made it work. And then later on in the race, when we were not in the rapids, then we just kept the packs kind of in between our legs. But I like the the method that Nick and Chip used, where we saw a lot of other teams, even that had the skirts, they would just strap it, either to the bow or to the stern of the boat. So, but I don't know. Again, I feel like we had a lot of gear compared to the other teams, because we didn't know, like, we didn't have experience in this region. So I think we probably packed a little heavy.
Well, there's just so many factors to how to configure your boat for a pack raft section. And I don't know if there is a right or wrong. Probably in some situations, there's a consequence to your choices. But hopefully class 2 and 3, you guys handled that fine. And any yard sales? Did anybody tip out or everything good?
Everything's
We're
good.
good.
Yeah.
There's some good pictures of other teams.
Yeah.
But
Well, it
not
looks
us.
legit.
It was legit.
Yeah, it
Raft.
was big.
It looked
Yeah,
like a
some of the stuff
blast.
was fun.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think we were in the air at one point. It was fun.
Yeah.
So cool.
And then in the middle of it was the urban trek through this like crazy fortress castle town thingy on a hill, which is like, yeah, you got out, and it was designed to where the way it was designed was you would park your boat, get out, pack your boat up, hike up into this town that's literally on this big hill that you would hike up, and you go through like a drawbridge gate into the town with like these like centuries old walls and cannons and stuff.
Oh, cool.
That overlooks the whole area. Super, super neat. And then you would descend down another river that then flows back into the original one you were on, that takes you through this canyon and then continue down. But to do that would be like a pretty long trek plus breakdown, tear down. And so we decided just to leave the boat there, which other teams did as well, because the points didn't matter as much. And then we hiked up, went in there, actually grabbed a bite to eat at a restaurant. And we were getting tired. I was tired. So we got some espresso or whatever.
Yep.
And then we kept, we trekked around and saw this awesome, historically beautiful town. And then we continued.
Day 2 then?
I don't know.
Day 2
I
or
think
day
so.
3?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, day 2.
How cool. That sounds amazing. And I guess you came back down, there's a little bit of the river left, and that's when you opened up into like a lake?
Yeah, so then, lake, some cool checkpoints with unique sticky rock features, which were fun to kind of scree up. It was literally rubbery and sticky. It was weird. And then, then a storm rolled in, so we paddled into a harbor town that we were going to get out and trek from. Ate at a fine restaurant covered in mud, met some friends from another team that spoke English, which was great. And then we took a nap for like 4 hours until the storm blew over. And then we trekked all night up and over a big mountain, paddled some more, and then, paddled some more on the lake on the other side of the mountains. And then got out, and that was when we found out the whole course was changed.
Yeah, so almost like a whole new race was about to begin.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great decision where you guys stopped and slept. That was the first time I was like, they're sleeping. I wonder, they must be having fun there, because it took you guys a long time in that little town. And I think I speculated that you got maybe 3 hours of sleep, even though you were there for 7 hours. And I think
There's fine dining. That's like 2 hours right there. You drink some wine and have salmon tartare and friends.
But I mean, a great way to spend a storm, right? And
yeah.
So I guess then at TA 7 is where you were told that a lot of the race had been canceled, like several legs, I think legs 9 through 13. And then they were just kind of holding teams there until they decided what the plan was. And then they came up with the plan. So they cut those few legs, and they added back in a short trek section, I guess kind of salvaging some of the area that they had intended to use. And then they started sending teams off at 8 p.m. that day. It must have been the third day. Second day, third day. Ugh.
Third day.
But we hit a restaurant and got some. No, we hit a little convenience store and we grabbed like fresh cheese and baguettes, and we made a charcuterie board and just had a picnic, which was fun. And Trevor from A1 came over and hung out with us for a bit. And then after that, we went to sleep. And I mean, I think I got like 7 hours of sleep, I think, there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like
It
a
wouldn't
whole
let
new,
us sleep till 1:30 or something
Yeah.
like that. So
yeah.
So how'd you feel about the changes to the course? What do you think, Chip?
thought it sucked because like we ended up giving up the rollerblading and the Via Ferrata. Like it pretty much was just you're gonna
The
buy
rollerblading
and
was canceled for everybody,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
but what you had chosen to give up was the
No, there's a second Via Ferrata that was canceled.
second Via Ferrata
Okay.
got removed.
Yeah.
The rollerblading got removed. The swim run stayed in. So it basically became a lot of biking. But
Nice.
basically, it's a lot of biking to the end. There was an extra O course that we ended up skipping just to stay, stay up with the rest of the pack. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like
It was fun.
I wanted to go rollerblading, but it's kind of like, God, I flew these damn rollerblades all the way to France. I want to ride the goddamn rollerblades, And so it's just not using your gear was probably the most annoying.
Yeah.
At least with the Via Ferrata, the day after the race was over, 2 days after the race was over, we went and did the Via Ferrata that we
Awesome.
race, and so we got to use all of our gear, got to use the zip line equipment. That was super cool. Jeremy and I can't pronounce the lady's name because it rhymes with Mooby.
Oh, it was Brewhild.
Yeah. But she was with us too, and so it's kind of fun that we got to do that part of the course on a beautiful day, not on the clock while being well slept.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying is you found out at the TA you're having, the race canceled all of those legs that you were looking forward to.
Yeah.
But then you got on the bike and you were able to do part of the course that you had missed after the race ended. Did
Yeah.
that motivate you to skip points so that you would have time to do that? Like, did it motivate you to end your race a little bit earlier than you
Yes.
could have in order to do something in France after the race
Because
ended?
we kind of had the choice. We could stay up all night long because the race didn't end until the next day at like 4 o'clock or something. So we could stay up all night long chasing points just for the hell of chasing points. And we were basically like, wait. If we get into like, dusk, we're gonna get a full night's sleep. We'll get our gear sorted. We'll be able to leave the Airbnb and then we could go do the Via Ferrata. And it was like, it doesn't, getting points does not help your score at all. So it's like basically, do we want to see the course at night or do we want to get sleep and then the next day have an adventure? And
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good decision.
Usually when thoughts of like what comes next after the race is over, when thoughts like that start coming in during the race, like the motivation just tanks to do more. But that said, you guys did go do the swim run. So what was that like?
We saw pigs.
It's all fake.
Saw pigs at the
Pigs.
swim run.
There were cute little piggies in a pen, and there was a checkpoint, and we got to go see the piggies, and they were cute.
Did you have to swim to them?
It was after the swim, but
After
no, we didn't have to swim to them.
Okay.
Yep.
How long were the swims and how many were there?
There were 18 piggies. The longest one was
Okay, we need to ask someone who's not as excited about piggies. Mark, how many swims did you have and how far were they?
So it was a pretty short orienteering course. And so there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 checkpoints. It was just 2 swims. It was like a little lake, essentially, a pretty small lake compared to what we'd been paddling on. So, no boat traffic, anything like that. I would say, and it was just 2, you basically swam across it and then you ran down kind of the beach, got another checkpoint and then swam back. It was probably, they said it was 500 meters total. So I would say maybe the first one was 300, 350. And then the second one was fairly short. It was a little bit cooler. Actually, the lake that we were paddling on was surprisingly warm. Because the river we paddled into it was chilly. The lake was, it was probably high 70s, almost 80, and this was low 70s. So it was like not quite comfortable, but you keep moving. But it was also when we were doing it, I mean, we did plan it. We planned it. Okay, we want to do this at like the peak sun, 2, 3 in the afternoon.
Yes.
But it was windy, and it was actually warmer to be in the water than out of the water. So once we got out of the water, we're like, Brenda, we got to run.
Yeah, you got
we
to
got to
warm
stay.
up.
We got to warm back up. But we dried off very quickly because it's just a dry climate, the wind. Yeah, so it was pretty quick. And then it was pretty weird because we had to cross electrical fences, which
While
we
wet.
weren't sure were actually on, while wet. And like we contemplated, like, do we go through this pen with the cows and the electrical fence? And like it was pretty obvious that the checkpoint was like in the middle of this cow pasture. So we went for it, and then we, from there, literally went to the pig barn, crossing the fence again to see the pigs. So
Yeah, it's not an adventure race if you're not wondering, like, am I allowed to go there? Like,
yeah, right.
stuff you
Yeah.
would not usually do in your regular life. You're like, yeah, I don't think this is private property. I mean, it's just barbed wire.
Right.
Brenda, what do you think about the swim? And the gear you guys have? What did you use, and did it work well?
Yeah, so I had bought the Newton. It's not a noodle, but whatever that contraption is, you put between your leg to help to keep you afloat. And mine didn't do so well. It was kind of small, so I ended up swapping with, was it you, Mark?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And used his, which helped. I'm not the best swimmer, and so I basically struggled with the swim. I wished I would have brought my my snorkel and mask, because I could have then just went ahead and just put my head in the water and just swam. But I was trying to keep my head up, and my feet were sinking. It's pretty terrible. My legs were sinking, but they swam next to me and encouraged, and so. But when we got there, it was so hot, and then all of a sudden it was like the storm was coming in, and it got cold instantly, and we had to jump into a cold lake. And then by the time we got out, it was very cloudy, and it was actually warmer in the lake. So it was a no-brainer to run to the next one and jump back in the lake where it was warmer. Yeah. But yeah, that was probably my worst discipline, was the swim.
Well, I am not a great swimmer either. I think a mask and snorkel makes like a world of difference.
Yeah.
I always think of when we did Expedition Africa and Rodrigues. The mask and snorkel and fins and scuba booties, whatever, and a wetsuit were all mandatory.
Oh, that's good.
It was and a life jacket.
Yep.
All the stuff you had to have and use between the little islands. Like that was the best swim scenario ever.
That would have been good. Yeah.
But there were only a couple, so that's good. You guys did really well with that, and you made it to the finish. What was the finish line like? Was it exciting?
Yeah.
It was a Louvre look-alike.
Yeah.
There's like that glass pyramid in the center of the.
I mean, that was the main finish, but they had like another little fun. Like we got into the area where we dropped the bikes, and then they were like, okay, now you got to go run around the city and go get like 4 more checkpoints or something like that. And they wanted us to walk, which is funny because other teams, they let them run, but they were like, you need to slow down, but enjoy the city. And we got there at the perfect time. It was right at dusk, and the sun's going down, and the sky's lit up, and
cool.
We know we're done basically. The race is over, but now we're just like piddling around, going through the city and enjoying ourselves. Leading up to the finish, which was at the Louvre. Yeah. So it was the Louvre.
It wasn't the Louvre. It was in the Gap. It looked like a really cool little town.
Yep. Beautiful little town. Yeah. Very well decorated. Like you go down these little thin streets, and they have stuff hanging, and everything's very colorful and very historic. And yeah, Gap is definitely, if you're ever in South France, definitely go to Gap. It was a fun town.
And congratulations, you guys. You were official finishers. Yep. You were not last. There were a couple of teams that DNF'd.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you should be proud of your accomplishments, and sounded like you made really great decisions, and even had spare time to go do the Via
Mhm.
Ferrata that you had missed during the race. So
And
yeah,
the
just
final bike ride in was beautiful too. Just they essentially
Yeah.
looped us from the swim run. You went up to the top of one of the mountains ish nearby, and they just took these roads just winding down, but you could see all the mountains and the Alps all over in every direction.
yeah,
And the sun was starting to set a little bit, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it was a really cool way. Like the race director, I'm pretty sure routed everybody to finish through that way just because of how beautiful it was. It was just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
awesome. So is there anything, let's just say one thing that you would do differently if you were going to do it again, besides have more water on leg one?
Well, I would say I learned a lot about packing because of the weight limits and stuff, and really how minimal you can go. Of course, we were at disadvantage because we're not native to the area, so we were, had a lot of things that we weren't sure about. And like, in the East, we might pack very differently than you pack in southern France, where it doesn't rain very often. Um, but that is something that I learned. And even a 4-day race, you really only need maybe a change of clothes once, and you can get away with the same pair of clothes to travel light, travel fast. So that's definitely one of my big takeaways
Yeah.
from this race.
Yeah. What about you, Brenda? Do you have a takeaway? Something you'd
Yeah,
do different?
something that Mark said too. A lot of the French teams, the elites, their raincoats and their rain pants, which were mandatory, were almost like fine windbreakers and didn't weigh much, packed down to almost nothing. And we're taking it literally. They're saying, you know, don't use that kind of stuff, but use your heavyweight rain gear. But we could have gotten away without any of that kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, I think I used the same pair of shoes the whole time, which is easily to do. And let's see. Yeah, you can't predict if you get sick beforehand. I sure would have loved to have done that race without being sick.
I'm sure.
I just, yeah. And even when I got home, it took a whole week afterwards, just still trying to get rid of it. I was struggling. Yeah,
Yeah,
it just
I'm
was a
sure.
bummer.
Great job fighting through that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Tough as
Yeah.
nails. I don't know how you did it. That
Nick,
Well,
Mhm.
you
hard
guys
first
encouraged
leg.
me. Having you guys there to help, that was huge.
Yeah.
yeah. Nick, what's your takeaway?
Um, I mean, I should have communicated. I should have checked that other people were or not on that group chat that I
Oh,
was
yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
that would have been a game changer, I think, for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a lesson learned.
Those things, just little things like that. It it takes more than you realize to
Mm-hmm.
to put all the pieces together, all the communication pieces. Chip, what's your takeaway?
It'd probably be the packing. Like I came back and bought one of those little Bobo rain jackets because that entire race, I had the rain jacket just draped over my head one time, and other than that, I didn't use it. My thermal gear, I used it one time to sleep in, and that was it. So I
It's
didn't even have to wash my thermal gear because I never used it. So I probably need to get a thinner layer of thermal gear that for races like this where it's not going to be cold. Like Canada is a different story. We're going 10 days in Canada, it's going to be cold. So maybe the thicker thermals, but I need to get I need to get some like the absolute minimum that I can get by light as possible that meets the standard. I need that set of gear so that races like this that were, it never got cold. Like not even.
so I'm not disagreeing with you, but I do know there have been races where we wished we had some things that we didn't have. And I
Right.
think it's judging what type of race it's going to be, what you're going to expect is like the key. And I'm thinking of Croatia because we thought it's Croatia, it's going to be warm and beautiful. And then we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to die out here. We really wish we had our bothy with us.
Yeah.
Like it can just go both ways. And so I hate for someone to hear this and think, oh, we can get by with absolutely the bare minimum. But you can only get by with the bare minimum in certain scenarios.
Right.
Anyway, this is the very, very last question for all of you. People listening, they're like, oh, it was such a hassle. They didn't meet their goals necessarily. It was hard. Brenda was sick. Like there was a lot of obstacles. But I want you to tell people why they should adventure race and why they should do it internationally for multiple days. So why is it worth it? Who wants to go first?
I mean, you get to travel and just see the entire place. Like, I mean, when we packed into 1 week, I mean, partially not sleeping as much, but we got to see just crazy amounts of the mountains and the sides and you spend out there. Same thing with really any international adventure race you do. They're generally all pretty solid races, and you just get to do some really awesome things. And like the Via Ferrata that we skipped, that was like 1,200 feet. We went back and did the Via Ferrata that we would have done on the course. That was just one of the top in Europe. I mean, it was absolutely stunning and beautiful. So I think when you just pack in how much you get to see and do in such a short period of time, I think that it makes it to where it's like totally worth it. And then when you factor in the cost, like they're not cheap, but when you think of all the things that you get to do in that time and all the resources and logistics they put on for you to get to have this amazing adventure in wherever in the world, I mean, it's really pretty affordable relatively,
Yeah. What about you, Mark? What makes it worth it?
Well, I would say, I mean, it was a super technical race, which I loved. You know, and it had it all. Like it wasn't just, oh, it just had technical whitewater or it just had technical mountains. Like all of it. It had technical mountain biking, whitewater. It had big mountains, and I think there's very few races on the planet that you can get all of those kind of in one race and put together in kind of a very linear race as well. And just, I mean, spectacular views, great people. I mean, and just a big shout out to the race organization. I mean, it was other than our inability to speak French. It was really well put together. The race brief. It was people hanging out in a pool. I mean, it was just fantastic.
That's awesome.
It was the things that they said were going to happen happened. It was really well put together, very well organized. It was just a fantastic race.
Yeah. So Nick likes that you can pack a lot of great things in a short amount of time. Mark likes the technical aspect and the race organization. Brenda, what made it worth it for you?
Well, as much as I've been racing, I've seen so much of the East Coast and so much here in the U.S. and to be able to go overseas and see countries that I just probably wouldn't go and do without it being a race. It was, I mean, let's go to the French Alps. Yes. Of course, why wouldn't I want to do that? And Via Ferratas, which you can't really find them here. And if you do, they're guided. I mean, this Via Ferrata over there in France, basically they showed you how to use your pulley and then see ya. And it took us 3.5 hours to do it. And then the office was closed when we got back. They didn't even care if you survived or not. I mean,
well,
in the U.S., they would never let you do this. It would be all guided, all controlled. And so just to be able to go off and have fun, and not be babysat,
absolutely.
Which was so fun. Yep.
Yeah.
No waiver either. I think when they charge you €8 and no waiver, no nothing, just go have fun and you'll be fine,
Yep.
No waiver. Nothing
no waiver.
is done.
Nothing. No.
Did they take your name or your number or
I don't think so.
Anything?
Yeah, I think we wrote our name down on a piece of paper, didn't we?
I can't remember.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah.
Well, we've been in Portugal and there's Via Ferratas that are just, they're not touristy. There's no one there. There's no nothing. There's just
do it.
Like going on a hike. Oh, there's a Via Ferrata.
We've never done a zip line. That was cool. Like you're in charge of your own zip line, just like the movie.
Yep.
Very much like the
We just
movie,
didn't have a dog with us.
We just weren't hanging from our bike.
Yeah, we weren't hanging from the bike. But that was exactly the gear that they used in the movie. That was kind of fun.
All right.
We should have brought a pig.
So my turn. In addition to what everybody said, because all y'all did really good stuff, I think it's the entire thing from beginning to end. Just the adventure of getting on the airplane and getting your gear there and figuring out the rental car and the Airbnbs, just getting to the start line. Then you get to do this epic adventure for 4 days, with three best friends, and then you get done, and then it's all the fun afterward. So it's just adventure racing's amazing, but adventure racing internationally is triple fun because it's the different cultures and the different foods, and it's hard. I mean, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and we sign up for hard, we sign up for dangerous, we sign up for complicated and technical, like Mark was saying, and I guess so we live a lifestyle that makes us like ready for complicated, hard stuff. And then you sign up for these races and you get to go execute and you get to see how do you hold up when things go wrong and the bike breaks and it's cold or we don't get to sleep or we have to stop at a restaurant and have fine dining. I mean, how do you react to all these situations, But you get done and you've got this like imprint of an amazing experience that you will never forget. And, most of us, you look back 3 weeks ago when you were at work and you can't remember what you did two Tuesdays ago. Meanwhile, we're always going to remember these experiences. So I think it's, like Nick said, it's a little bit expensive, but what we packed into this trip was priceless. And so I would encourage everybody to do it. Don't start with this race because it was a hard race. Like if this was a normal race, we would have been like, with the amount of effort we put in, we would have been like in the top third. Meanwhile, we're like near last, and we know what we're doing. Like this was a very hard race.
We did not look like we knew what we were doing.
I would hesitate to call anything normal, like adventure racing wise. Like, what is a normal adventure race?
Let's just say, if we bop into the C2C, we're going to be just fine. Say we're going to, like, which podium spot are we going to get? It's just a different race. I'm just saying.
That's a little too much hubris.
Just the C2C in Florida where it's flat and there's no Alps and there's no Class 3 whitewater and there's no technical rock climbing.
There's alligators.
Alligators. There's stocked TAs with food. But either way, don't do the C2C and then think that you're ready to go do Sud Raid. It's just a absolute different experience.
Well, you guys made it look fun, and I really terribly hated missing it. And luckily, I only have, hopefully, knock on wood, 2 more races that I cannot do with you. Nationals is coming up, and Worlds is coming up.
Yep.
And I'll be, dot watching instead of racing. But
then we'll be in New Zealand.
Hopefully, I'll be back at it by New Zealand in February. But anyway, thanks for chatting with me and racing with Chip and doing such a great job making all of us proud back here in America. It was really fun following you guys. And everybody out there, thanks for listening.
Yep. See you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please take a moment to leave a rating and a comment. To find additional content, including the video versions of these discussions, you can search for thisABILITY Racing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We hope this podcast inspired you to focus on your abilities and plan your next adventure.
See you on the trail.